Delivering pizzas in Madison after midnight isn't just about cheap tips and cold roads. Out here, when the students quiet down and the streets go dark, something else wakes up. Something that watches from the doorways. That listens when you walk up the porch steps. At Sal's Pizza Fiamma, we don't just teach drivers how to get around town fast. We teach them how to survive. There are 3 rules. Simple, non-negotiable. Rule 1. If the door opens before you get there, stop. Do not walk inside. Don't speak. Put the pizza down, back away, and leave. Rule 2. If you hear a voice behind you say, "Wrong door," trust it. Turn around. Don't question it. Don't knock. Rule 3. If the same customer places a second order 5 minutes later, same address, same name, refuse the delivery. That second pizza isn't for them. I thought the rules were just superstition, until the night I delivered to 13 Ravenwood Lane. Stay with me until the end, because if your door ever opens on its own, you'll want to remember what not to do. Like, comment, and subscribe before your address ends up in the system. Delivering pizza in Madison after midnight is its own kind of purgatory, especially when you're a college student trying to dodge student loans instead of keg stands. The city transforms. The daytime bustle of State Street and the cheerful energy around campus drains away, leaving behind echoing streets, pockets of boisterous drunken noise, and vast stretches of unnerving quiet under the sodium lamps. You navigate dark apartment complexes where every door looks the same. Hunt for house numbers obscured by overgrown bushes, and pray for decent tips to make the gas money and the low-level dread worthwhile. My name's Leo Martinez, and this beat-up sedan, smelling perpetually of stale pepperoni and desperation, is my chariot through the witching hours. The home base, Sal's Pizza Fiamma, is an oasis of heat, light, and the glorious smell of baking dough and garlic, just off University Avenue. Inside, it's controlled chaos, phones ringing, screens flashing orders, the roar of the big gas ovens. Sal himself, perpetually dusted with flour, apron stained, usually holds court by the ovens, bellowing orders, focused entirely on the twin gods of speed and temperature. He is not a bad boss, just intense. Doesn't care much for excuses, just results. Hot pizza, delivered fast. Martinez, order up. Campus dorms, Chadbourne Hall, room 417. Chloe Vance's sharp voice cut through the din from the dispatch station. Chloe ran the screens and the phones with terrifying efficiency. Her sarcastic commentary, a constant soundtrack to the nightly rush. She knew every shortcut, every dead end, every notoriously bad tipper in Madison. She also seemed to know which addresses were problematic. Ben Carter, one of the veteran drivers, grunted as he passed me, grabbing a stack of pizza boxes. "Have fun with the dorm rats, Leo," he muttered not unkindly. Me, I'm heading west side tonight, avoiding the Langdon Street crazies if I can help it. Ben had his routines, his preferred zones, and everyone knew there were certain streets, certain apartment buildings he just wouldn't deliver to after 11 p.m., though he'd just laugh it off if you asked him why. My first few deliveries were blessedly normal. Drunk undergrads grateful for late-night sustenance, quiet houses with porch lights left on, decent tips, standard. I started to relax, letting the rhythm of driving, parking, delivering lull the usual night shift anxieties. Then came the order for 13 Ravenwood Lane. It wasn't a notoriously bad neighborhood, just an older street lined with tall, slightly gloomy houses converted into student apartments, known for confusing layouts and burned-out porch lights. As I grabbed the pizza, a large pepperoni standard, Chloe caught my eye from the dispatch screen. She didn't say anything, just gave the tiniest, almost imperceptible shake of her head, her lips tightening for a fraction of a second before her expression went carefully blank again. It was enough. A cold knot formed in my stomach. Ravenwood was one of those addresses. It brought back Sal's orientation. Talk for my first week, delivered gruffly over a lukewarm slice after a busy Friday night rush. Not about food safety or delivery zones, about survival. Listen up, Martinez, Sal had said, wiping grease from his chin, his usual bluster replaced by a strange seriousness. This ain't corporate training bullshit. This is stuff you learn driving nights in this town. Things get weird sometimes. You follow these rules. No questions asked. Saves you hassle. Maybe more. He'd leaned forward then, his voice low. Rule 1. Door opens before you get there. You walk up, maybe halfway up the path, and the door just swings open. Nobody visible. Don't yell. Hello. Don't peek inside. Put the damn pizza down right there on the welcome mat. Back away slow. Face the door till you hit the sidewalk. Then turn and go. They paid online. Their pizza's there. Not your problem. Rule 2, he continued, ticking a flour-dusted finger. You're looking for an apartment, maybe down some creepy-ass hallway late at night. You hear a voice. Clear as day, right behind your ear, says wrong door. You turn, hallway's empty. Doesn't matter. You trust the damn voice. You turn around, you walk away from that door. You find the right one, even if you swore the first one was it. Got it? Trust the voice. And rule 3, he'd leaned even closer then, his breath smelling of garlic and something else. Maybe stale fear. This one's bit me before, bit other drivers. You make a delivery. Normal. 5-10 minutes later, Chloe calls, or the app pings. Same address, same name, second order right away. Your gut says glitch. Your gut says easy second delivery, maybe another tip. Your gut is wrong. You tell Chloe no go, repeat on that address. You refuse the run. Do not go back there, no matter what. Understand? I nodded, trying to look like I took it seriously, while internally dismissing it as driver folklore, Sal's way of hazing the new guy or explaining away customer complaints. But Chloe's almost invisible warning now. It lent Sal's words a chilling weight. Ravenwood Lane was dark, pools of shadow lying thick beneath the old oak trees lining the street. Number 13 was a tall, narrow Victorian house. Paint peeling, most windows dark. A single dim light glowed in an upstairs window. Typical student rental, run down and probably overpriced. I grabbed the pizza bag, the cardboard warm against my fingers, and started up the cracked concrete path. Halfway to the porch it happened. The heavy wooden front door, previously shut tight, swung silently inwards, opening onto a hallway shrouded in absolute darkness. My blood ran cold. Rule 1. Every nerve screamed to drop the pizza and run. But Sal's instructions were clear. Put the pizza down. Back away slow. My heart hammered against my ribs. Swallowing hard, I forced myself to walk the remaining distance to the porch, the open doorway yawning like a black mouth. I could hear nothing from inside. Smell nothing but damp leaves and old wood. Fighting the urge to peek, I quickly placed the pizza box squarely on the worn welcome mat, just inside the threshold. Delivery, I managed, my voice a shaky whisper. Then, moving deliberately slowly, I backed down the porch steps, keeping my eyes fixed on that silent dark opening. Step by careful step onto the cracked path. Another step. Another. The door remained open, silent, watching. Only when my feet hit the relative safety of the public sidewalk did I dare to turn. I half ran back to my car, fumbling with the keys, glancing compulsively in the rearview mirror as I pulled away. The door to number 13 was now shut tight, as if it had never opened at all. Just an old house, silent under the streetlights. But as I drove away, my hand brushed the pizza bag on the passenger seat. Through the insulated fabric, I could feel a distinct, unnatural coldness emanating from where the box had rested on that dark threshold. The memory of that silently opening door on Ravenwood Lane became a permanent resident in the back of my mind, whispering alongside Sal's rules. I started paying more attention, not just to house numbers, but to the feel of a place as I approached. Did the air seem colder near the porch? Did the silence feel watchful? Most deliveries remained blessedly mundane. fumbling students, tired parents, late-night gamers. But the exceptions were jarring enough to keep the anxiety simmering. It happened again a week later. Different address, same unnerving script. A newer apartment building, this time one of those bland, vaguely institutional complexes near the engineering campus. Apartment 3B. The hallway was brightly lit, smelling of stale pizza and maybe weed, music thumping faintly behind a distant door. Felt completely normal. I walked up to 3B. Pizza held ready like a shield. Lifted my hand to knock. Click, click. The door swung silently inward, maybe 6 inches, revealing only darkness beyond the threshold. No sound from inside, no flicker of movement. Just silent, waiting darkness. Rule 1. This time the fear was immediate, mixed with a frustrated anger. Again, but the memory of the cold from the first time, the sheer wrongness of it, overrode any impulse to hesitate or call out. Heart pounding, I quickly placed the pizza box on the floor just over the threshold. Delivery. I stated flatly to the empty air, my voice sounding too loud. Then, moving deliberately, I backed away down the brightly lit hallway, eyes locked on the partially open door. It remained motionless. Only when I reached the corner and turned did I hear the soft final click as it presumably swung shut behind me. Back at Sal's, the warmth and noise were a welcome shock after the cold silence of apartment 3B. Another weird one? Chloe Vance asked without looking up from her screen as I dropped the empty delivery bag onto the counter. You could say that, I muttered, grabbing a lukewarm soda. Gilman Apartments 3B. Door opened on its own. Chloe finally looked up, pushing her glasses up her nose. She consulted her screen briefly. Ah, Gilman 3B. Yeah, that one's temperamental. Been on the driver weird list for years. Just leave it and go, right? Her casual confirmation that there was a list, that this wasn't just happening to me, sent a fresh chill down my spine. Then Carter, grabbing his next order, overheard. He paused, looking at me, his usual joking demeanor gone for a moment. Gilman 3B, he repeated, lowering his voice. Door opened on you? Damn. Listen, Martinez, he leaned closer. You did right just leaving it. Seriously. Heard stories. Guy who drove before me. Name was Kevin. He apparently called out, "Hello," once when that door opened on him, thinking it was just someone waiting. Then shuddered visibly. Kevin quit the next day. No notice. Just cleared out his locker. Wouldn't say why. Heard he moved clear across the country. Ben clapped me roughly on the shoulder, forcing a grin. Ah. Probably just old driver stories, right? Stress of the job. But his eyes held a genuine fear that lingered long after his false bravado returned. Later, getting back into my car after another delivery, I felt it before I saw it. An unnatural coldness clinging to the driver's side window, wiping away the condensation from the inside. I froze, etched perfectly onto the damp glass, as if drawn by an icy finger, was a small, disturbingly clear handprint. Child-sized. It lingered there for a few seconds in the dim streetlight, then faded rapidly into nothingness as I stared, leaving only streaks of condensation and the frantic hammering of my own heart. After the handprint incident, I started paying more attention to Chloe's dispatch assignments, to Ben's carefully curated routes, trying to map the weird list addresses in my head. The pattern seemed erratic, scattered across different neighborhoods, different types of buildings. The only common denominator seemed to be late hours and, often, proximity to older parts of campus or areas known for student turnover. One particularly foggy Madison night, the kind where streetlights' halo and sound seems to warp. I got a delivery for a sprawling, confusing graduate student housing complex tucked away near University Heights. Finding the right building was hard enough. Navigating the identical, dimly lit interior corridors, searching for apartment 217, felt like wandering through an Escher print. Doors looked the same. Numbers seemed out of sequence. Muffled sounds echoed strangely. I was certain I had passed the 200 wing already, feeling increasingly disoriented and frustrated. I finally spotted it. 217. Down a side corridor I could have sworn wasn't there moments before. The door looked identical to all the others. Relief washed over me. I stepped towards it, raising my hand to knock. Wrong door. The voice was calm, female, spoken clearly, directly behind my left ear. Close enough to feel the phantom breath of the words. I spun around instantly. Pizza box held like a weapon. The corridor behind me was completely empty. Long, shadowed, silent, except for the low hum of the building and distant, muffled bass from someone's stereo. No one there. Impossible. Rule 2. If a voice behind you says, "Wrong door," trust it. Wrong door. Trust it. My mind rebelled. It had to be an echo, a trick of the ancient ventilation system. Maybe someone in an adjacent apartment speaking near a thin wall. But the clarity, the proximity, and the rule. Trust it. Every fiber of my being screamed to ignore the impossible voice. Knock on the door, mark 217. Get the delivery over with. Get the tip. Customer waiting. Clock ticking. But Ben's spooked face. Chloe's subtle warnings. The icy handprint. I couldn't dismiss it. With a deep breath that did little to calm my pounding heart, I lowered my hand from the door marked 217. I forced myself to trust the impossible. I turned back, retraced my steps, went past the main corridor intersection, and turned down another side hallway I hadn't noticed before. And there it was, another door, also marked 217. This one somehow felt brighter, quieter, less expectant. I knocked. The door opened almost immediately. A man in his 50s, maybe older, peered out through thick-rimmed glasses. He wore slightly rumpled academic tweeds despite the late hour. His study behind him piled high with books and papers. Dr. Thorne. I recognized the name from Chloe's dispatch screen. Remembered seeing his address pop up frequently on late-night orders, often near other weird list locations. He took the pizza with a distracted air. Paid the exact amount online already? Then paused, peering at me over his glasses. Notice any unusual barometric pressure shifts tonight, young man? He asked absently, before nodding and closing the door, leaving me bewildered on the threshold. Back at Sal's, I mentioned the confusing layout, the weird acoustics in that building to Chloe. She gave me a sharp, knowing look. Unit 217, Thorne's place. She shrugged, turning back to her screen. Yeah, that whole graduate complex is a rabbit warren. Sound bounces funny in those old plaster walls. She paused, then added, without looking at me. Or maybe something just didn't want you knocking on that other door tonight. Driving home through the fog-shrouded streets later, the city felt alien, unreliable, and I kept hearing it. Just at the edge of perception. Faint, indistinct whispering seeming to come from the empty passenger seat beside me. It stopped abruptly every time I turned my head. The rhythm of the weirdness settled in, becoming almost predictable in its unpredictability. Doors opening early became less shocking, more an accepted, if chilling, part of the job on certain streets. I learned to ignore the phantom whispers, the cold spots, the objects that seemed to shift slightly when I wasn't looking. I focused on the deliveries, the tips, the ticking clock towards the end of my shift. I started keeping a small notebook, discreetly logging the addresses where rule triggers occurred, noting times, dates, any unusual customer behavior. Dr. Thorne's name appeared frequently, either as the recipient or on deliveries to adjacent buildings just before or after an incident. The correlation felt too strong to be coincidence. One night, I delivered to Thorne himself again, apartment 217. The transaction was brief, mundane. He seemed preoccupied, barely acknowledged me. already turning back to his cluttered desk as he closed the door. Standard weird, Professor. I headed back towards Sal's, relieved it was an uneventful run. I'd driven maybe 5 blocks when my phone, mounted on the dash, pinged with the delivery app alert tone. I glanced at it. New order pickup, Sal's Pizza Fiamma. Delivery address: Dr. Iris Thorne, app 217. Order: 1 large pepperoni. Exactly the same as the order I had just delivered less than 10 minutes ago. Ice water flooded my veins. Rule 3, if you get a second order from the same room 5 minutes later, don't return. My immediate reaction was disbelief. System glitch. Had to be. Maybe Thorne accidentally hit reorder? Maybe he just really liked pepperoni? But the absolute seriousness in Sal's voice, in Ben's warning nod, when Sal first explained this rule. Never go back for seconds on those ones. Never. My phone rang. Dispatch. Chloe's voice, professionally brisk. Leo, you see that new order ping for Thorne on Ravenwood? Assuming Thorne lives at 217 Ravenwood. Need consistency. Closest driver. Can you take it? No, I said, my voice tighter than I intended. No, Chloe, that's a no-go. Repeat. Rule 3. There was a pause on the line. Then surprisingly, Chloe didn't argue. Just a quiet sigh. Okay, Leo. Got it. Marked as undeliverable driver refusal. Her lack of argument was almost more disturbing than if she'd pushed back. She knew. 10 minutes later, back at the pizzeria. Sal stormed out from the ovens, face red. Martinez, what the hell is this? Professor Thorne just called. Raising hell, said dispatched. Told him you refused his delivery. Said you left him high and dry. What kind of service are we running here? Address was a no-go. Repeat. Sal, I said steadily, meeting his angry gaze. Rule 3. Sal opened his mouth to argue, then seemed to deflate slightly, glancing towards Ben Carter, who was pointedly cleaning the pizza counter nearby. Ben gave Sal a barely perceptible shake of his head. Sal scowled, threw his hands up. Fine, whatever. Crazy rules. Crazy town. He stomped back towards the ovens, muttering about unreliable student drivers. Ben caught my eye and gave me a single, approving nod before turning back to his work. The solidarity, the shared understanding of the unspoken dangers, was a small, cold comfort. Later that night, driven by suspicion, I accessed the digital order logs on the main terminal while Chloe was on break. I found my original completed delivery to Thorne at 217 Ravenwood Lane. Then I searched for the second order, the one that pinged just minutes later. Nothing. No record of it, not in active orders, not in cancelled orders, not even in system error logs. It was completely gone, as if it had never existed at all. The screen flickered slightly as I stared at the blank log. Thorne wasn't just a weird customer, he was connected. And whatever entity haunted the thresholds of Madison, it could apparently edit the system logs too. My job wasn't just delivering pizzas anymore. It felt like I was delivering myself into something far older and far hungrier. The pattern was too neat, too deliberate. Dr. Iris Thorne's late-night pizza orders became my obsession between deliveries, cross-referencing his order history, times, locations, even toppings sometimes, against my own growing logbook of rule trigger. Addresses revealed a chilling correlation. He didn't just order near the weird spots. His orders often seemed to precede or immediately coincide with the phenomena, particularly Rules 1 and 2, and his research. Digging through obscure university databases revealed papers I'd missed before, heavily theoretical work on liminal perception, anomalies, and threshold event consciousness. He hypothesized that certain locations, under specific conditions, time of night, emotional state of observer, became thin, allowing for brief overlaps with something else. And he speculated that focused human intention, like, say, the anticipation of a delivery driver approaching a specific door at a specific time, could act as a catalyst or tuning fork for these events. He wasn't just a customer, he was running experiments. The confirmation came disguised as another order, just after 2 a.m. on a night thick with Madison fog. Destination: 13 Ravenwood Lane. The Rule 1 house. Customer: Dr. A. Thorne. Order: 1 small, plain cheese. But the special instructions, they were insane. Delivery driver must approach property from north sidewalk only. Proceed directly to porch. Place pizza box squarely on the 3rd step from the bottom. 3rd step from the bottom. Wait precisely 90 seconds after placement. Use timepiece. Knock 3 times. Pause 1 second. Knock 2 times. Depart immediately via south sidewalk only. Important: do not look back at the house after leaving porch steps until reaching the street. Payment online. Tip included. This wasn't a pizza order. It was a protocol, a ritual designed to maximize... What? The house's reaction? My fear? What is observation? Cold fury warred with a deeper, colder fear. I took the delivery. I had to see him. Confront him. Ravenwood Lane was a ghost street, swallowed by fog so thick my headlights barely penetrated 5 feet ahead. Straight lights were hazy, distant orbs. Number 13 loomed out of the mist, darker than the surrounding gloom. All windows black tonight. Following Thorne's bizarre path felt like walking into a meticulously set trap. North sidewalk. Check. Approach porch directly. Check. Pizza placed carefully on the cold, damp 3rd step. Check. Then, the agonizing wait. 90 seconds. Timed on my phone's stopwatch. Standing exposed on that dark porch, listening to the profound, fog-muffled silence. Every nerve screaming. The air felt heavy, expectant. Time up. I knocked. 3 sharp raps. Pause. 2 more. The sound swallowed instantly by the fog. Silence. No door opening tonight. I turned, forcing myself to walk down the steps and onto the south sidewalk as instructed, resisting the overwhelming urge to look back at the dark house. Reaching the relative safety of the street, I stopped, turned, and melted into the dense shadows of an ancient, dripping maple tree across the road. Pulling out my phone, hitting record on the camera, aiming it towards the porch. Minutes ticked by, nothing but swirling fog and silence. Had he played me? Then a flicker of movement near the side of the house. A figure emerged cautiously from the deeper shadows, half obscured by mist. Dr. Aris Thorne. He wasn't looking for pizza. He was holding a small, sophisticated-looking handheld device. Complex lenses, external microphone, maybe thermal sensors, aimed directly at the porch. At the pizza box sitting innocently on the 3rd step. He was recording, measuring, observing. I stepped out from behind the tree, my own phone's flashlight beam cutting through the fog, pinning him. Collecting data, Professor. My voice sounded harsh, unnatural in the heavy air. Thorne gasped, whirling around, shielding his device instinctively. He squinted into my light. Martinez, what in God's name are you doing? You were instructed to leave immediately, and you were instructed to order pizza, not run reality experiments on minimum wage drivers. I shot back, stepping closer, holding up my phone, displaying one of his archived paper titles. Catalyzing liminal phenomena through anticipatory observation. Threshold listener, you call it? You think it's okay to use people as bait, to trigger this, whatever it is? Just so you can get footnotes for your crackpot theories? He drew himself up, regaining a semblance of academic hauteur, though his eyes darted nervously towards the house behind me. Crackpot, Mr. Martinez. This is groundbreaking research into the fundamental nature of perception, the very fabric of localized reality. This entity, this phenomenon reacts to focused human intention, to the active transition across a threshold. Your arrival, the anticipation, the specific ritualized delivery, it creates a measurable perturbation. an observable ripple. His eyes gleamed with obsessive fervor. The rules your colleagues follow? Fascinating emergent behavioral adaptations to minimize psychic dissonance. Think of the implications. He actually took a step towards me, lowering his voice conspiratorially. Your sensitivity, your repeated exposures. You are an invaluable data point, Mr. Martinez. I would offer generous compensation, naturally. Full collaborator credit on publication. His offer was cut short by a sound that wasn't sound, a low-frequency thrum that vibrated through the soles of my shoes, seeming to come from the house, the ground itself. The fog around the porch began to swirl faster, thickening, coalescing. The front door of 13 Ravenwood Lane didn't open. It seemed to dissolve inwards, edges blurring like melting wax, revealing not a dark hallway, but a swirling vortex of shifting, impossible colors. Sickly greens, deep violets, bruised yellows, accompanied by a chorus of distorted, overlapping sounds, faint lullabies, static-filled voices pleading, traffic noise running backwards, the sharp crackle of faulty phone lines. Rule 1. Twisted into a nightmare portal. Then came the voices, whispering directly around us, seeming to emanate from the fog itself, cold and clear, despite the swirling chaos. Wrong door, hissed a voice directly behind my ear. Wrong time, echoed another near thorn. Turn back now. He sees you, Leo. Contradictory, disorienting. Rule 2, weaponized. My phone, still in my hand, suddenly buzzed violently, the screen flashing with an incoming order alert from Sal's app. Customer, Dr. Eris Thorne. Address, 13 Ravenwood Lane. Order 1 large pepperoni. Rule 3, triggered right here, right now. The ground felt like jelly beneath my feet. The porch light above the dissolving doorway flickered spastically, casting our shadows in jerky, disjointed fragments. Thorne's recording device let out a piercing electronic shriek and began to smoke, its lenses cracking. Time stuttered. For a second, I felt like I was just arriving again, pizza in hand, walking up the path into the fog. Magnificent, Thorne gasped, raising his broken device towards the vortex, fumbling with its controls, ecstatic even as reality frayed around us. The convergence, the rules activating simultaneously. The resonance is peaking. The swirling vortex in the doorway pulsed, drawing the fog towards it like an intake valve. A tangible pull emanated from it, tugging at my clothes, at my consciousness, promising oblivion, or perhaps answers within its impossible depths. The whispers intensified, mocking, cajoling, accusing. Thorne, lost in his academic rapture, seemed oblivious to the immediate danger, perhaps even welcoming it. I was trapped between his fatal curiosity and the full, unleashed power of the threshold listener. Reality itself unraveling at the seams, threatening to pull me into the space between moments, between places, forever. The world snapped back into focus with a sickening lurch, like surfacing too fast from a deep dive. The swirling vortex in the doorway of 13 Ravenwood Lane vanished, the impossible colors receding, leaving only the dark, empty maw of the house interior, seemingly unchanged. The cacophony of overlapping voices cut off abruptly, plunging the street back into the fog-muffled silence, broken only by the frantic whine of Dr. Thorne's smoking recording device on the wet grass, and my own ragged breathing. Thorne himself was sprawled near the porch steps, not pulled into the vortex, but seemingly collapsed, eyes wide and unseeing, a thin trickle of blood coming from his nose and ears. His device sputtered one last time and died. Whether he was dead, catatonic, or simply overloaded by the reality glitch he'd provoked, I didn't know, and didn't stay to find out. My phone, still gripped tightly in my hand, showed the third iteration of the pizza order had vanished from the app, just like the second one had from the logs. Erased. Survival instinct took over. I scrambled back, Away from the house, away from Thorn, plunging into the thick, disorienting fog, needing distance, needing escape. I ran blindly for blocks, the chilling whispers seeming to echo in the mist around me. Wrong door, wrong place. He sees you. Until I finally stumbled onto a better lit main street, hard hammering, soaked in cold sweat and fog moisture. Back at Sal's much later, looking like I'd wrestled a ghost and lost, which wasn't far from the truth. Only Ben Carter was left, cashing out his tips. He took one look at my face, my trembling hands, and his usual cynical bravado vanished. "Ravenwood?" he asked quietly, his voice grim. I just nodded, unable to speak. "Rule 1, or worse. All of them," I croaked out. And Thorn, he was there, experimenting. He triggered it. I told him everything. Thorn's research, the special instructions, the vortex, the overlapping rules. Thorn collapsing. Ben listened silently, his face growing paler. When I finished, he ran a shaky hand through his thinning hair. "Thorn," he breathed. "Always knew that guy was messed up. Heard the university kicked him out years ago for unethical research methodologies. Guess pizza delivery drivers were cheaper lab rats?" He shook his head. "Jesus, Leo, that entity. The listener, whatever it is. Thorn might be gone, but it knows you now. You triggered multiple rules, survived a full manifestation provoked by that lunatic. You're attuned." He looked genuinely scared for me. "My advice? Get out. Leave Madison. Don't look back. Sal won't care. He'll just hire another desperate student. But you need to disappear before it sends another special delivery." His fear, mirroring my own, solidified my resolve. But first, Thorn's research. I couldn't leave that behind. I drove back towards Ravenwood Lane in the first gray light of dawn, the fog thinning now. Police cars weren't there yet. Maybe no one had found Thorn. His body, thankfully, was gone from the lawn, but his damaged recorder and a scattered sheaf of damp papers remained near the lilac bush where I'd hidden. I gathered the notes quickly, shoving them into my bag. Back in my apartment, I scanned them frantically. Thorn's handwriting was erratic, obsessive. Detailed logs of delivery times correlated with atmospheric readings. Local M field fluctuations. Driver reports, likely gleaned from eavesdropping, or hacking Sal's system. Theories about the threshold listener, being drawn to moments of decision anticipation, the psychic energy of arrival, and notes on its weakness. It seemed bound by its own rules, its interactions limited to those specific triggers. The door, the voice, the repeat order. But his final entry was chilling. Subject LM exhibits high sensitivity. Ruler. 3 trigger imminent. Repeated exposure. May cause permanent perceptual attunement. Potential for full transference, imprinting increasing. Ideal conditions for final observation. He hadn't just been observing. He'd been grooming me, intentionally pushing me towards the final rule. I knew what I had to do. Running wasn't enough. I had to cut the connection. Destroy the research that could lead someone else down this path. My resignation at Sal's was brief and final. Sal grumbled about leaving him short-staffed, but seemed more interested in getting the deposit back on my delivery bag than asking questions. I gave Ben Carter a quiet heads-up, a warning about Thorn's true nature, and the danger of certain addresses. He just nodded grimly, wished me luck, and told me to stay off the damn threshold. Chloe Vance wasn't working. I left an anonymous note tucked into the dispatch keyboard. 13 Ravenwood and Thorn GG Bay bad news. Check logs. Maybe someone would listen. Maybe not. Then began the methodical process of erasure. Not digital this time, but physical. I took Thorn's notes, his damaged recorder, every scrap of paper referencing the rules or the weird deliveries from my own notebook. Drove out to a remote state park miles outside Madison, built a small contained fire in a designated pit, and burned it all to ash, watching until the last ember died. The final act was symbolic, necessary. I drove to Lake Mendota again, late at night, the water black and still under a sliver of moon. I took the pizza delivery bag, the insulated symbol of my role as Thorne's catalyst, weighted it with heavy stones gathered from the shore, rowed the small rental boat out into the deepest part I could find, and dropped it overboard. It sank quickly, leaving barely a ripple, cutting the cord, severing the tool. I left Madison the next day, driving west, no destination in mind, just needing distance, needing new scenery, needing to forget the feeling of unseen eyes at every doorway. Months later, new city, Phoenix maybe, hot, dry, worlds away from Madison's damp chill. New job, stocking shelves in a vast, anonymous supermarket. New routine. I felt okay. The constant anxiety had lessened. The hypervigilance faded. I started to believe I had actually escaped. That destroying Thorne's research, leaving the nexus point, had broken the connection. Until tonight, walking home to my small rented bungalow after a late shift, quiet residential street, sprinklers ticking softly on manicured lawns under the desert stars. Mundane. Safe. I reached my front walkway, fumbling for my keys, and heard it, clear as day, right behind my left ear, a calm female voice. The same one from the apartment complex hallway in Madison. Wrong door. I froze, every muscle locking, the keys falling from my numb fingers, scattering on the concrete. I spun around wildly. Empty sidewalk. Silent houses. Nothing. Just the quiet suburban night. Shaking, I turned back to my own front door. My door. The one I lived behind. And watched, heart hammering against my ribs, as it slowly, silently, began to swing inwards, pushed by no visible hand, opening onto the familiar darkness of my own small living room. Rule 1. Here. Now. Miles and months away. Now. Miles and moon. I stared into the darkness beyond the threshold, the mundane suddenly terrifying, alien. It hadn't been the location. It hadn't been Thorne's experiments alone. It was me. I was attuned. I was the threshold the listener now recognized. I had left Madison, but I hadn't escaped the rules. They had followed me home, and the door was open, waiting. I quit Sal's the next morning, dropped the bag in the lake, burned the last of Thorne's notes, left town without looking back. New job, new city, new name. No pizza, no deliveries, no rules to follow. I thought I was done, until last night, when I got home, keys in hand, and my front door opened on its own, slow, silent, waiting. Then I heard it, a voice just behind me. Calm, close, wrong door. That's when I realized the rules don't belong to Sal's. They belong to me now, and I'm still on the route. If you've listened this far, you're on it too. Remember the rules, and pray they don't apply to your address next. Like, comment, subscribe, because once that second pizza shows up, it's already too late.